I have a question for you. Who among all these people who fought, betrayed, killed, and died for the Iron Throne could actually sit on it and do the job? Because here's the thing. Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms together show us more than 20 people who either sat on the throne, wanted to sit on it, or effectively ruled from the shadows. And almost all of them are a disaster. Just a disaster of different scales and with different timing. Some burn quickly, others slowly, others manage to burn half the continent before it all collapses. Today, we are strictly about one thing. Who knew how to rule? Who understood what power is, not as a privilege, but as a tool? Who can hold the kingdom together, make the right decisions, and pass it on to the next generation in better shape than they received it? 3 shows, more than 20 characters, 1 tier list. Let's go. First, briefly about the tier system. Tier S, the Kingdom Builder. Under them, Westeros would have actually become better, not just stable, better. There are only a few of these in the entire history of the franchise. Tier A, the Just Lord. Not great, but stable. Under them, there would be no wars without a cause, and the people would live normally. Tier B, Good Person, Good Enough King. The most underrated tier. Not ideal, but better than most. They did enough right things to keep the kingdom together, just at some point they lacked that final step. Tier C, Disaster on a Schedule. Everything was going fine. For a while. Then, one decision, one moment of weakness, and that's it. Moreover, this decision was always a logical consequence of their character, not an accident. Tier D, the Kingdom Burner. These are not rulers, at all. Their only contribution to history is the destruction they sow, simply by the fact of their existence on the throne. Robert Baratheon. Let's start with him, because Robert is the perfect example of how one can earn the throne and yet be completely unsuitable to sit on it. He won the war and immediately began to lose the peace. This is not a metaphor. This is literally what happened. Robert was made for rebellion. Charisma, physical power, the ability to inspire people to follow him into a deadly fight. He had all of this in abundance, but everything that makes a person a great commander is absolutely useless at an administrative table. Robert ignored the small council. He accumulated debts to the Lannisters and Tyrells so huge that the kingdom effectively belonged to the creditors. And this is a structural problem, because dependence on creditors means that the king has no independent will. Every one of his decisions is now filtered through the question, what will the Lannisters say? But the most destructive thing is that he did not deal with the upbringing of his heir. And he got Joffrey. This is not an accident. It is a direct consequence of Robert refusing to be a father, just as he refused to be a king. He fled from responsibility into hunting, wine, and the beds of servant girls.
It's empty, Your Grace.
What do you mean it's empty?
There's no more wine.
Is that what empty means? So get more.
Each of these factors individually is manageable. Altogether, they are a system that inevitably collapses at the first crisis, which is what happened. Tier C. Since we started talking about the Lannisters, let's immediately break down the man who stood behind half of this family's decisions. Technically not a king. In fact, he ruled the kingdom longer than most kings in this list. Tywin Lannister. Tywin is one of the most complex cases in the entire tier list because he combines absolute competence in some things and absolute blindness in others. On the one hand, he is the best administrator in Westeros. He restored the Lannister finances from total bankruptcy. He managed the Westerlands so effectively that they became the richest region of the kingdom. He understands economics, military strategy, and how institutions of power work. But here is his fatal blindness, and it flows directly from his main strength. Tywin thinks in categories of fear, not loyalty. The Red Wedding is brilliant from a tactical point of view and catastrophic from a long-term political point of view. Yes, he destroyed the Starks as a military threat in one move, but he bought this at the price of the reputation of the entire royal house. After the Red Wedding, not a single lord could trust the Lannisters in matters of hospitality, one of the fundamental codes of Westeros. And it was this trust destroyed by Tywin's hands that became one of the reasons that Cersei later ruled in complete isolation without a single real ally. There is something else important. Tywin completely did not know how to transfer power. He built a system tied personally to him and left behind nothing that could work without him. A great temporary manager, a destructive dynasty builder, Tier C. Cersei Lannister. Cersei is smart, truly. She reads people, builds short-term schemes, knows how to press the right buttons. But here is the fundamental difference between her and Tywin. He built fear as a system. She built fear as an emotional reaction. On Tywin, he acted coldly and calculatedly. She acted out of resentment, out of paranoia, out of a desire to prove something to a world that had not taken her seriously all her life. Follow the chain. Cersei armed the Sparrows to destroy the Tyrells and got religious fanaticism in the heart of the capital, which threatened the monarchy itself. She blew up the Great Sept and killed all her allies with one blast, remaining in complete political isolation.
I'm the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms.
3 kingdoms at best.
Then she ruled in a ring of enemies, without money, without allies, only with mercenaries, for the gold of the Iron Bank. Each of her victories was tactical and strategically suicidal. She won battles and lost the kingdom, again and again following the same pattern. Tier C, okay, now for the person that fans adore, and whom I still cannot raise above a certain place. Robb Stark. Robb on the battlefield was absolute, not a single defeat. But here is what's important to understand about him, the key to everything. He did not separate the concepts of personal honor and state necessity. For him, it was one and the same, and that is his tragedy. When he married Talisa instead of Frey's daughter, he did it out of honor. From the point of view of personal morality, it was right. From the point of view of a king who leads a war and whose alliances are held on marriage contracts, it is a betrayal of his own army. Not because he is evil, because he never truly accepted the fact that he became a king. He still thought like a knight.
Most kings grew up as princes. They spend their whole lives preparing for the crown. I was raised to be Lord of Winterfell.
The Red Wedding is not just his death. It is the logical end for a man who never understood the difference between what is right for him personally and what is right for the thousands of people who are dying for him. Tier C, and now a character whom almost no one considers seriously in this context, and that is a big mistake. Margaery Tyrell, let's be honest, Margaery Tyrell is one of the most underrated political minds of the entire franchise. She was doing something that almost no one else in this list knew how to do. She built loyalty from the bottom up. She went to the seps, to the poor, distributed food, talked to people who, for most lords, did not exist as political subjects. And this was not charity. It was a long-term political investment.
Do you want to be a queen?
No. I want to be the queen.
In Westeros, power is traditionally built from the top down. The king controls the lords control the people. Margaery understood that this mechanism is fragile, and she built a parallel one, a direct connection with the common people, which does not depend on the feudal chain. This is modern political thinking in a medieval world. Her problem, she acted in a system that was not ready for this type of power. Cersei destroyed her before she managed to realize her potential. But as a ruler, Tier A, confidently, under Margaery, the people would be fed and satisfied, and that is the foundation of any stable power. Since we are talking about people with the right political instinct, here is the man who was the best hand in the history of Westeros, and whom this very Westeros thanked with a prism, Tyrion Lannister. Tyrion as Hand of the King is a separate story, because that is where he showed what he was capable of without family pressure and without personal tragedies. He reformed the tax collection system, he prepared the defense of King's Landing from Stannis' fleet, and won the Battle of the Blackwater in a situation where he had fewer resources, less support, and less time than any normal strategist. He understood diplomacy, economics, and the psychology of power simultaneously, which is an exceptionally rare combination. But he has one systemic problem as a ruler. He is too honest in a world where honesty is a vulnerability. He says what he thinks, he calls people what they are. This makes him a brilliant advisor and a dangerous independent politician, because an independent politician in Westeros must be able to lie beautifully and without remorse. Tyrion does not know how to do that.
I wish I was the monster you think I am. I wish I had enough poison for the whole pack of you. I would gladly give my life to watch you all swallow it. Cimarron!
And that is why he is Tier A and not S. Now, to the person everyone loves and everyone respects, Ned Stark. Ned is the embodiment of an honest man in a dishonest world. And that is exactly what makes him a wonderful Lord of the North and a catastrophic Hand of the King. In the North, his honesty worked because the North is a closed system where everyone knows everyone, where reputation is passed from generation to generation, and where a lord's word actually means something. In King's Landing, that same honesty turned into a vulnerability that everyone at court saw and used. When Ned found out the truth about Joffrey, he warned Cersei, gave her time to flee. That is noble. That is absolutely suicidal from a political point of view. He put a personal code of honor above state necessity. And the price of this decision was measured not by his life, but by thousands of other lives in the war that followed.
What madness led you to tell the Queen you had learned the truth about Joffrey's birth?
The madness of mercy.
Ned, as a ruler in a stable time, in a closed system with clear rules, Tier A. Ned is a ruler in a complex political environment, Tier B in the best case. And here is a person I want to put in a tier that will surprise you. Sansa Stark, Tier A. Listen, I understand the reaction, but let's look at the facts. Sansa went through a path that few go through in Westeros. She learned from the best and worst rulers simultaneously. Cersei taught her how court politics works. Littlefinger taught her how to build schemes and see hidden motives. Joffrey showed her that power without control is a disaster. And unlike most characters in this list, Sansa absorbed these lessons and did not break under their weight.
I'm a slow learner. It's true. But I learn.
By the end of Game of Thrones, she ruled the North effectively on her own while Jon fought Cersei. She prepared supplies for the winter, which others ignored. She understood politics in a way that neither Jon nor Robb understood. And at the same time, she preserved what Tywin, Cersei, and most others in this list lost: the ability to think about people, and not just about power. Now, the person over whom people in the internet are still fighting: Stannis Baratheon. Stannis is an absolutely just man. No exceptions, no compromises. The law is the law, the right is the right, and if you broke it, it doesn't matter who you are.
The Iron Throne is mine, by right. All those that deny that are my foes.
Sounds like an ideal king, right? No. Because politics is not mathematics. Politics is people. And Stannis categorically did not know how to work with people, did not know how to give them what they needed emotionally. Built loyalty only through duty. Here is the specific cause and effect relationship. Stannis had an absolutely legal right to the throne after the exposure of Joffrey. Absolute, legally indisputable. And yet almost no one stood under his banners voluntarily. Why? Because people do not follow the right, they follow a person. And Stannis did not know how to be a person for his subjects. He was a principle, a living embodiment of the law, and this is magnificent for a judge and not enough for a king. At the same time, his decisions were generally reasonable. His strategy had logic, and in peacetime, he could well have been a solid ruler. Tier B, and that is more than most in this list. Okay, since we are in Tier B, here is a person who ends up there for a completely different reason. Jon Snow. Jon is that rare case when a person is literally created to be a leader and at the same time absolutely not created to be a king. People went to die for him voluntarily. The free folk recognized him. The wildlings accepted him, and wildlings generally accept no one. This is a colossal political capital. But here is a systemic problem. Jon perceives power as a burden, not as a tool. He never thinks about how to use his influence strategically. Ident the knee, Jon did this because it was logical from a military point of view, but he did not explain this to his allies, did not prepare them for this decision, did not build a narrative around it. As a result, the North felt betrayed. And not because Jon betrayed, but because he did not understand that politics is not only decisions, but also how you present them. Tier B. And now the character who is talked about the least in this context, and he deserves a separate conversation: Bran Stark, Tier C. This is a controversial choice, I know, but let's think together. Bran is the most informed ruler in the history of Westeros. He literally has access to all the memory of the world. He sees the past, sees the present in different points simultaneously, understands patterns at a level inaccessible to any advisor.
Will you lead the Seven Kingdoms to the best of your abilities from this day until your last day?
Why do you think I came all this way?
Theoretically, the ideal ruler. In practice, no. And here's why. A good ruler must not only know what is happening, he must act, make decisions, communicate with people, inspire, convince, bargain. Bran does not do this. He observes. He is present. He answers with mysterious phrases when concrete decisions are expected of him. This is not a management style. This is an absence of management. Westeros under Bran is a kingdom that manages itself while the king looks into the past. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. And to predict when exactly is impossible. Tier C. Now to a person I want to place where no one expects to see him: Viserys Targaryen. And I think it's Tier B. I know what you thought. He launched the Dance of the Dragons. Yes, he launched it. But let's separate what he did wrong from what he did right. Because Viserys I ruled for 26 years. 26 years without large-scale wars, without famine, without rebellions. This is not an accident. It is a result. Viserys understood something fundamental that most rulers of Westeros did not. The kingdom is held not on fear and not on force. It is held on a sense of stability. On the fact that tomorrow will be similar to today, he created this sense consciously through feasts, through tournaments, through the openness of the court, through personal accessibility. The lords loved Viserys, not because they were afraid, but because under him it was good. This is a very rare quality in Westeros. Yes, he had a fatal blind spot. He could not accept that love without firmness creates a vacuum that is filled by others' ambitions. He gave both Rhaenyra and Alicent what they wanted to hear, instead of giving them clarity. As a result, each of them built her own incompatible picture of the world, and when Viserys died, these pictures collided with catastrophic consequences. But, and this is important, the guilt for the Dance of the Dragons lies not only on him. Otto Hightower manipulated him for years. Alicent and Rhaenyra made their choices themselves. Viserys created the conditions for the conflict, but did not create the conflict itself intentionally. He was a man who wanted peace so much that he could not recognize. Sometimes peace requires firmness, and not kindness.
Infighting must cease! All of you! We are family!
A ruler with real achievements and one unforgivable weak spot. This is not Tier C. This is Tier B. Now, let's break down the man who stands behind half of his decisions, Otto Hightower. Otto is the smartest man in House of the Dragon, not the wisest, specifically smart. He sees political vectors earlier than everyone, builds long-term schemes, never acts impulsively, but here's his fundamental problem. He confuses the interests of his family with the interests of the kingdom. For him, it is one and the same, and in this is his blindness. Each of his decisions is optimal from the point of view of the elevation of the Hightowers, and destructive from the point of view of the stability of Westeros.
Your designs are obvious. Do you wish to have your blood on the Iron Throne so badly that you are willing to destroy mine own?
He provoked a succession crisis through Alicent. He organized the coronation of Aegon, knowing that this would launch a civil war, because the victory of his family was more important than the price the kingdom would pay. A brilliant tactician, a catastrophic statesman, Tier C. And here's the person whom Otto used as a tool, and who at the same time is smarter than it seems at first glance. Alicent Hightower. Alicent never wanted to be a politician. She wanted to be a good wife, a good mother, a good believer. But circumstances placed her in the center of a political crisis she did not create. And here's what's interesting. Unlike most people in this list, Alicent knew how to listen, knew how to understand people, knew how to find consensus until it came to her children. Here is where her potential breaks. The maternal instinct completely turned off her state thinking. She promoted Aegon not because she believed in his ability to rule. She herself perfectly understood his weakness. She did it because she could not come to terms with the fact that her children would end up in subordination.
You have no idea the sacrifices that were made to put you on that throne.
This is understandable humanly. This is a disaster from the point of view of the kingdom. But at the same time, if you remove this one factor, Alicent as an advisor, as a diplomat, as a person who knows how to build relationships at court, would be a very valuable ruler. Tier B. Now, the other side of this war. Rhaenyra Targaryen. Let's look at the facts. Rhaenyra knows how to build loyalty, knows how to read people, knows how to hold the council together even when everything is collapsing around. Her problem, she ruled exclusively in conditions of war, which began before she managed to show what kind of ruler she could be in peacetime. We never saw Rhaenyra in stability, only in crisis. And even in crisis, she held on longer and smarter than most people in this list.
My father's dead, and he chose me as his successor. To defend the realm, not cast it headlong into war.
The enemy have declared war.
Tier A, and here is the man standing next to her, and deserving a separate breakdown. Corlys Velaryon. House of the Dragon gives us a man who actually knows how to do everything a ruler needs. He built a sea empire, not through inheritance, but through strategy, understands economics, logistics, knows how to go for a compromise when it's needed, and hold the position when it's necessary. Most importantly, he knows how to separate the personal from the state. Westeros under Corlys would have been rich, stable, and strong at sea. Tier A. Now, the person I am placing at the very bottom. And here there is nothing even to discuss much. Joffrey Baratheon. A 10-second conversation executed Ned Stark, launched the War of the Five Kings. Any advisor would say, Night's Watch, oath, end of story. Instead, a public execution out of childish pride followed the chain. One impulsive decision, war, hundreds of thousands dead, economy in ruins, kingdom fragmented. This is not a tyrant with a calculation. This is a child with an army.
I am the king. I will punish you.
Tier D. The next person in Tier D, a special case. Because he is scarier than Joffrey, precisely for his unpredictability. Aerion Targaryen, Prince Brightflame, a knight of the Seven Kingdoms, shows us a man who made people drink wildfire for disrespect, not for treason. For disrespect. This is not a tyrant with cold calculation. This is a man with such an unstable psyche that power in his hands turns into a personal tool of torture of everything that surrounds him. Cruelty without a goal This is not politics. This is terror. And terror does not build kingdoms. It destroys them from within. Tier D. And now, to the people who did not reach the top for very different reasons. Daenerys Targaryen.
The mother of dragons, the Khaleesi of the great grass sea, the unburnt, the breaker of chains.
The most bitter conversation in this list. Daenerys really was good in Essos, freed slaves, built coalitions, inspired people to follow her. But all her rule in Essos was built on a simple moral equation. Slave owners are bad, she is good. Westeros does not work that way. And when this complexity met her conviction in her own exceptionalism, something broke. King's Landing is not an anomaly. It is the logical end for a person who ruled through faith in her own rightness, and not through understanding the system. Tier C. Now, to the character from The Knight, about whom we need to talk separately and in detail. Prince Baelor Breakspear. Prince Baelor is shown in The Knight as a man who knows how to do something exceptionally rare for Westeros. He knows how to be just without being weak. We will analyze him based on this unexpected action.
I will take the Duncan side.
The connection here works both ways. Such decisions create legitimacy, not through fear, but through respect. Lords who see that the law is applied equally to a prince and a commoner become allies out of conviction and not out of calculation. This is the most durable type of loyalty in Westeros. Baelor could have become a great king, did not have time. Tier A, and that is unfairly little. And now, Tier A, which no one expects, a person without a throne, without an army, without a name, Duncan the Tall. He is not a king, right?
Are you Baelor Targaryen?
No.
Then would you move the fuck out of the way?
Yeah.
But he is necessary here because he shows the type of person that is found in Westeros least often. A person with a real moral compass and with the readiness to act on it contrary to any pressure. Stood against a prince of the blood at a tournament. Protected a simple person whom all others were ready to give up, knowing that it could cost him his life. This is not naivety. This is principle. And it is exactly such people, having received power with the right advisors, who build something real. Tier A, as an embodiment of what a person next to the throne should be. And here we have reached the only name that deserves Tier S, Aegon Targaryen, the future king. For now, still a boy, traveling with a hedge knight and learning from him what is not taught in any castle, how real people live. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms shows us something that in the whole franchise occurs exactly once. An heir to the throne who actually wants to understand what his kingdom is from the inside. Not from the top down from a castle window, but from the bottom up, from the road, from inns, from conversations with people who have neither name nor land nor protection. This is not just a nice biographical detail. It is a fundamental difference from all others in this list. The problem of almost every ruler of Westeros is, one, they do not understand what they manage. Manage an abstraction, a map, names of lords, numbers of taxes. Egg would manage people because he knew what they were. Have you seen the way he reacts to injustice? Not with abstract indignation, but with a concrete action. Duncan stood for a simple person, and Egg stood next to him, knowing that it could cost him everything. This is not naivety. This is character. And character is the only thing in Westeros that cannot be bought and cannot be manufactured. History tells us that Aegon tried to abolish serfdom, tried to limit the power of lords over simple people, carried out reforms that made the lives of ordinary people better. In a world where every king before him fought about the throne, about war, and about the dynasty, this man thought about the people. If we are talking about the ability to rule, about understanding what the kingdom is, and for whom it exists, Egg stands above all. Tier S, the only one who deserves it, in my opinion. Be sure to subscribe and check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.